You ever just buy something out of sheer curiosity, like you saw an ad for it and thought it was going to be a good time? I do that a lot with video games. I mean, most times it ends up being one of the best franchises I've ever played, like Bayonetta is a huge example, or the Persona series for me. Well, the reason I bring this up is because today's subject, Stellar Blade, I kind of bought out of sheer curiosity. I do remember seeing a trailer for it during a PlayStation State of Play, but I didn't think much of it at the time because at the time, I was just sort of preoccupied with other games. Then, I saw an ad for it recently and thought about playing through it. And, well, I also finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so I thought maybe it was finally time to give it a look. So after I booted up the game, I found out that it was a hack and slash, and well, there was a lot of things about this game that reminded me of Bayonetta. I know people jump straight to Nier Automata or even Devil May Cry, but I do also know that some people jump to that Bayonetta conclusion, and so did I. But I kept playing anyway and decided to give my 2 cents about this game. I know I'm a little bit late on this because, the game's been out for a few months now. I kind of wanted to let it stew in the internet for a little bit and then, let the flame die out about the whole controversy situation, which I won't be bringing up for this review, except for maybe one passing line. But I think that's enough of the beginning. Let's get into my review of Stellar Blade. I'll put a spoiler warning for the story right about here, just so anyone who plans on buying this game for themselves can go in with a little more surprise. But just like every other one of my reviews, I'm going in depth, so I'm going to be spoiling the whole game here. So let's get started. Alright, let's get that plot summary out of the way. So, humanity is practically extinct on Earth because they lost a war against some monstrous creatures known as the Naytibas. In an attempt to reclaim the planet, something called the Colony sends the 7th Airborne Squad as a means to liberate Earth from the Naytibas. Of course, our main character Eve is in this squad. This attempt fails with flying colors, as the flashback ends with Eve watching her close friend Taki sacrifice herself to protect Eve from an alpha Naytiba. However, before the Naytiba can get Eve, she is saved by a scavenger named Adam. In order to defeat the Alpha Naytiba, Adam enlists Eve's help to recover a hypercell that can be used as a power source for a city of surviving humans known as Zion. After defeating a different Alpha, Eve ends up rescuing a 5th Airborne Squad member named Lily. Lily decides to join Eve as an engineering support, and after the trio arrive to Zion, they meet the leader named Oracle. Oracle explains that with the hypercell that Eve recovered, along with 3 more, they can restore power to the city and make it fully functional once again. Oracle also finally explains that in order to find the Elder Naytiba, Eve must defeat 4 alphas and take their cores and combine them into the Master Core to get into the Naytiba's nest. I feel like I just described something in Metroid. And so the trio go to recover the 2nd hypercell and then go to fight the 2nd Alpha Naytiba, which turns out to be Taki. Unfortunately, Eve is forced to kill her and retrieve the core. Yeah, I expected a lot more build up to this kind of twist, but no, they just decided to get this one out of the way. I feel that it's a little undercooked as a result, but in fact, that's how I can describe a lot of this game's story. It's kind of undercooked. I enjoyed it, but there are just some things that I felt could have been expanded on, though I won't say that the story is bad, but I'll get into what I think about this game's story overall in a minute. Now, Eve and the others go to recover a 3rd hypercell, but recover a recording by a former Airborne Squad member named Raven. Raven believes that humanity is actually a race of advanced human-like androids called Andro-Eidos, and that Naytibas are actually the original human race after some genetic experimentation that resulted in humans resorting to their original forms. Oracle actually confirms this, that long ago, their leader, an AI called Mother Sphere, created the Andros-Eidos as humanity's prayer, and both species lived in peace until Mother Sphere ordered Andro-Eidos to exterminate humanity and rewrite history to fool them into believing that they were humans. Wait, is this a sequel to Detroit Become Human? Anyway, as a result of this, the surviving humans that went into hiding eventually transformed themselves into the Naytibas as a means to fight back against Mother Sphere and the Andro-Eidos. Despite the fact that this is probably the most shocking revelation that Eve has ever experienced, Eve continues her journey to kill the Elder Naytiba. Oracle informs Eve that the 3rd Alpha Core is located on the top of a space elevator, but before the trio go, Adam receives concerning word from Zion and leaves Eve and Lily to deal with the problem. After defeating the Demigorgon, Eve fails to retrieve the core and is saved by Lily, who sent a signal to the colony to send Providence, this mech suit to assist Eve back on Earth. Lily and Eve return to Zion and discover that it is under attack by the Naytibas, and Eve rushes into the city to defend it and fights the Alpha that originally killed Taki, which turns out to be Raven, who left the recordings that were left by the hypercells. Raven retreats after Eve defeats her Naytiba form and takes the core. Eve attends to the dying Oracle, who reveals that he was actually an Alpha Naytiba, or rather a fusion of Andros Eidos and Naytiba technology. Since Eve only has 3 alpha cores, Oracle sacrifices himself by using his own core to create the master core. Eve and Lily then head for the nest, and on the way they find a final recording by Raven, who reveals that she has grown disillusioned upon discovering that Mother Sphere exterminated humanity, but also ruined Earth's surface. Eve and Lily arrive to the entrance of the nest and have another encounter with Raven, but Eve comes out on top, leaving Raven disabled, but alive, so she'll most likely get a DLC campaign soon. The duo then enter the nest, only to discover that Adam's true identity is Raphael Marx, the scientist who created Mother Sphere and the Elder Naytiba. Adam explains that he has come to regret creating the Naytibas that meant the sacrifice of the creature's humanity. He also realized that the androids lack human DNA, Andros Eidos, can't be the successor of humanity since they can't evolve. To fix this issue, Adam offers to fuse himself with Eve to become the next step in human evolution, which will both eliminate the threat of the Naytibas and give humanity a chance to thrive again. And yes, there are 3 different endings. If Eve refuses to accept Adam's plan, the two battle each other, with Eve coming out on top, and Adam dies along with the last hope of humanity. Mother Sphere also welcomes Eve and Lily back to the colony, and now their mission is complete. However, if Eve accepts the plan, the two of them fuse to create a new type of human, and Mother Sphere ends up overriding Lily's mech and has it attack Eve. Eve prevails, and depending on whether or not you filled up Lily's meter, Lily can die. Yes, you may notice through your playthrough that this meter will fill up as you do side quests and progress the story. That's Lily's relationship meter, and if it reaches max before you go to the space station, Lily will survive and deliver the 4th hypercell to Zion, with Eve becoming its new protector. However, if you fail to complete Lily's meter, she will die, and the game ends with an endless horde of soldiers sent by Mother Sphere. You can tell that you're on the right track for Lily dying or not based on if Lily stops you from going to the space station and instead goes to Eidos 9. Once you complete that, Lily is guaranteed to survive if you choose to fuse with Adam. By the way, for this review, I got the ending where Lily survives if you accept Adam's hand, and I personally think that this is a better ending than the first ending I got, which was not accepting Adam's hand. I think it's just the simple fact that you actually have to go out of your way to do most, if not all, the side quests, and seeing Zion prosper at the end is a pretty good reward for your hard work. Overall, the plot is fine. Again, it feels kind of undercooked, but I don't think anyone is paying attention to the plot. The multiple endings is a nice feature and all, but it's annoying for trophy hunting as you basically have to do 3 separate playthroughs, especially if you're like me and accidentally locked yourself out of doing the ending with Lily dying because you decided to do every side quest. Honestly, the story is pretty by the numbers. Almost every major twist can be predicted by just basic observation. Honestly, I could guess that Adam was the Elder Naytiba because Raven kept referring to him, and besides Oracle, Adam is the only significant male, and, well, Oracle was already suspicious in my eyes anyway. I mean, this dude looks like a Naytiba. But with the story done, let's get into that part that I was actually curious about, the gameplay. First, Eve's default weapon is her sword, the Blood Edge. The combos are pretty simple, but you'll be focused on figuring out the enemy's patterns and using either perfect parries or perfect dodges to avoid damage and strike back. As you parry, you'll fill up your beta meter, and when you have enough, you can use one of 4 attacks to deal some extra damage to one or multiple enemies. Later on, Eve will learn a new type of skill that is similar to beta, but these are called burst skills, and these use the red meter that's right above the beta meter. You can refill this meter by perfect dodging or using repulse or blink. These sets of moves are effective in their own ways, but I always find myself spamming the same few when I fill up their respective gauge, especially Eve's Judgment Cut End. I know it's not called that, but come on, she's acting like Virgil. All that's missing is Bury the Light. So you may have noticed the meter below Eve's health. That's her shield meter. Assuming you have a nanosuit equipped, because I know some of you will try to play this game with the skin suit, you know who you are, don't lie to yourself, Eve will always have a shield meter. The shield depletes as you take hits, but it protects you from taking as much damage from enemies. However, enemies also have this too, so most times it's good to use your weaker moves to deplete their shields to do maximum damage with your big hitters. This also means that if your shield breaks, you'll take a lot of damage until you regain it, and it really encourages patience, but also allows for a little room in error. Because of this, I didn't feel like I had to be as cautious when it came to combat encounters, but I knew things got real when I heard that shield breaking sound. Just like Jedi Fallen Order, Eve can heal with a push of a button thanks to her tumbler. You start off with just a few potions, but as you upgrade you'll get 8. Plus there are other types of potions such as lingering potions. But similar to Jedi Fallen Order, you have to be careful when you try to use a healing item, as it does take a second for the healing to actually go through, and you'll likely end up dead if an enemy cancels you out of your healing. Enemies also have a yellow meter. That's their balance. As you perfect parry, it will go down, and once it's empty, you'll be able to perform a finisher on them. These finishers typically do massive damage, but they aren't always a guaranteed kill, especially if it's a boss fight. Speaking of the boss fights, they're pretty fun. They really put your reflexes to the test and do a great job in punishing you if you get too reckless because you parried one attack. And they always end with a cool climatic finisher with just 1 or 2 QTE prompts. I will say that the combat is pretty easy to understand, and I do feel like it's perfectly balanced, since I don't feel like you have to rely exclusively on parrying or dodging in order to take down enemies, but it does make it easier. Yes, I am aware that I am comparing this game to Jedi Fallen Order, a Souls-like game, when this game clearly takes inspiration from the likes of Nier Automata, Devil May Cry, and Bayonetta, but it kind of feels more like a Souls-like game, but a lot easier to digest. I don't feel like there's any particular type of enemy that gives me a hard time, and this game is a good stepping point for those who want to play Souls-like games, though I'd probably recommend something more like Sekiro or Jedi Fallen Order. Also, death is not really a punishment in this game. If you die, you respawn at your previous checkpoint without losing anything, so the game is pretty merciful in that regard. Now, Eve doesn't just have her sword to defend herself with. Later on, Lily will modify Adam's drone to allow you to shoot shells from a distance, and I only really used it when it was required. There are multiple shell types, and they're pretty effective in their own ways, but I never really found a situation when I had to use them unless it was a puzzle or in a required section because Eve's sword was disabled. Enemies never really try to keep their distance unless it's a turret, but you always can close the gap and take them down. Eve also gets grenades that you can use in combat, and well, I never use them. Seriously, I honestly kind of forgot they existed, despite the fact that there's a giant grenade prompt on screen at all times. From what I can tell, they knock down enemies for a second and give you time to breathe, but I never really felt overwhelmed by the enemies in this game. And finally, after you defeat Taki, Lily gives Eve the ability to use her sword and enter this sort of super mode called Taki mode, and it's pretty nice. A good way to clear an area and give yourself some space, while also dealing some big damage to bosses if you drain their shield. And with the right upgrades, you can even do more damage. Yeah, I think it's safe to say this, I never really had a difficult time in this game. Just like Jedi Fallen Order, there's plenty of rest spots where you can save the game, refill your potions, and upgrade your gear, and the game has plenty of ways to find materials you need to upgrade everything. You can find weapon cores to upgrade your sword, tumbler expansion models to upgrade your tumbler, and in New Game Plus, you can upgrade how much health your potions restore. You can also upgrade your drone to be more effective as a gun, or even an exploration tool. Speaking of exploration, let me get one criticism out. The environments are pretty bland. It's either a desert or a ruined city. Now, that's not terrible, it's just, I wasn't really sure what to expect, but I kind of hope for a little more originality in the level department. However, I'll say that each of the environments are distinct in their own ways in terms of geography, but in terms of aesthetics, they're pretty much the same. Now, in terms of what you can do in the regions, various NPCs from Zion can give you quests that you can fulfill through bulletin boards or just talking to them. You can also fish for a few requests and a nanosuit, and you can simply look around every environment for a crap load of collectibles. The main thing you'll find is chests containing materials needed for crafting upgrades or purchasing items from all the shops, or some additional ammo for your drone and healing tumbler. Each shop uses different currency, so it's just a matter of knowing which vendor you're talking to. Some use just gold, while others uses mech parts that you can get from robot enemies. You can also explore each area and find these drink cans hidden almost everywhere. They're actually pretty easy to find, especially if you get the drone upgrade that makes a sound when you're near one. As you collect cans, you get rewards such as expansions to how many grenades you can use, and if you get all of them, you get a special nanosuit. There's only 49 of them, but let me warn you about a missable one in the space station. But you can get it again in fishing, so I'll give shift up points for that, but you just have to pray that the RNG gods are on your side, because it could take a while. Honestly, finding the cans isn't that hard. If you have a basic sense of curiosity, you'll find a good chunk of them on your own. Plus, if you're desperate for a guide, Lily will display them and it'll tell you which ones you're missing. You can also find exospines and gears that give you various perks. You can only equip a few at a time, and each of them have their own effects, so it's a matter of finding your preferred build. Personally, I prefer focusing on increasing my effectiveness with beta and burst skills, as I find myself using them. And finally, the selling point for this game, the nanosuits. This game has over 70 nanosuits for you to complete, half of which are in New Game Plus, but they're purely cosmetic, but some are pretty, yeah, now you know the reason for the controversy. Also, if you complete Kasim's quest, you can style your hair in a bunch of different ways and colors, which adds another level of customization. Also, in the setting menu, you can change the length of Eve's ponytail if you don't like how it is by default. When you finish the campaign, you unlock New Game Plus, which lets you keep everything you get in the main story, but you'll also gain access to new skills to unlock and other stuff I mentioned. You also gain access to Hard Mode, which is a nice way to bring some more replayability. Hi, this is one of those instances is where future Caleb kind of interjects. I wrote this review months ago. I wrote this review probably around the time Stellar Blade came out, and between the time I wrote this and finally finished editing, they released Boss Rush mode, and I don't really feel like getting new footage for that because, I mean, it's way too much effort for just like a few second segment. Basically, it's just what it sounds like. You're just going through fighting all the bosses, and when you beat them all on normal or hard mode, you get a new exosuit or whatever, a suit for Eve to use. It's pretty nice. Pretty nice distraction. I finished it probably within an hour. But yeah, that's really all there is to the Boss Rush mode. I just wanted to quickly edit this in just before rendering out the video. I know this is probably the second time I've done this in a review. I think I did this back in the Arkham City review, but that's besides the point, so carry on with the review. Overall, in terms of gameplay, I think Stellar Blade is pretty good. I enjoy just about everything, and I could see myself coming back to this game pretty often. The combat is engaging and allows for a little experimentation, the regions are fun to explore, and I always feel like I'm getting rewarded for my curiosity, whether it's a nanosuit or simply a piece of lore. The only section I actually kind of hated was the section where you have to run through this parking lot with turrets shooting at you. I only disliked it because of the cover wasn't actually cover, apparently. Seriously, I was behind cover and I still got hit by the turrets. I honestly just switched to easy mode just to get through it. Graphically, I think this game is great. I never really had any time where I thought the graphics dipped, and I didn't encounter any major frame rate drops, and I didn't have any major visual glitches I noticed. However, I did suffer from one annoying issue, which was that there were times where the game would randomly crash, especially if I tried to fast travel. I don't know if this was a common issue or if I just had crappy luck. However, it really didn't affect me too much because my autosave was always just a few feet from where the game crashed, so I could just continue almost immediately. In terms of soundtrack, it's pretty good. I like most of the themes, especially the battle themes. Special shout out to Bale's theme and Raven's theme. It may be the most unfitting theme for a battle like this, but it's still a nice listen. Overall, despite only buying this game because of a simple ad, I really enjoyed my time with Stellar Blade. Despite the controversy, I still think if you have the time, you should check it out because the game is fun to play. Unfortunately, it's a PS5 exclusive, which means PC users might be able to get it in about 2 years, but for now, it's just PS5s only. Well, that was a fun one to do, but it's been a while since my last review, and it kind of feels good to do another one. I mean, I did a lot of comparing of Jedi Fallen Order, so if you haven't seen that review, it'll be in the link in the description below, along with some other links to other Let's Plays I've done, maybe some hack and slashes I've played on this channel, like God of War, Jedi Fallen Order, you know, all that good stuff. I might do a Let's Play of Stellar Blade sometime soon, who knows? I mean, if you haven't already, consider liking, subscribing, all that kind of jazz, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever I do next, which will hopefully be the Star Wars Jedi Survivor video, or Batman Arkham Knight, whichever happens first. So see you guys next time, and take care.